As you wish. You sound like the Princess Bride. No, it's a movie.
I watched it many times when I was young with my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stupid movie.
Yeah, that's why it's funny, because it's stupid. Stupid comedy. Okay, we have stuff like this. Wow. Whew, okay. That later. Okay, so we're live then? All righty, just to make sure, are we live from my page?
Yes, we are.
Right then. Uh-oh, this lighter is dead.
Oh, it still works.
My rubbing sticks are dead.
We need some more points. Down.
Oh, ona gari wahi ga joko, so what I see is nyari. Because it does really, you just how energy on budget's going to start on that honey. They tell what I do, Gurunga gari, I guess, yet the sort of as a tanker garako, dano, yet in the stars in Honzagi, dano Gueguscat Negarungue. They tell what I do, so a year, and it couldn't do heads that goes down a grades and egan yet the gear. Guego o quadri on Nuko Sopa. Return what all do yet so the one and not the headstone, they're going to go here that the hour cool. Dam Dowie are on headstone and I got that Stasser and make a number. Dam Dowie are on headstone and I said we got Dardigan, Ganyaga Haga, Godunyato, and not Roni Dono, Risco Gate Dono. A Guego on a go to Guyana Rasa go and Escano Dono 43 or Cariwo Body Shusada because of Sasser. Okay, so as you know, every time we get together for council meeting, anything of importance, we always have to carry out on the gutty with that. But first, this is where we identify and give thanks for the things in creation that have created us and the things that we need to continue to sustain us. So we always begin by giving our thanks to the great spiral of creation that when you look up into the nighttime sky, you're not looking into cold, dark, empty, lifeless space the way that non-native science would lead you to believe. No, instead you are looking into the living, vibrant body of our great mother, of Sky Woman herself. And so we give thanks to her, to Sky Woman, as it is she who has given us spirit. From there, we give our thanks to the beating heart of our Mother Earth, to Grandma Moon. It is she who regulates the flow of the lifeblood in all things. And so we give thanks to Grandma Moon, as it is she who has given us blood. From there, we give our thanks to our Mother Earth, regardless of where you have grown up from her, what language you speak, or what color you are, or what you imagine divides us. We all grew out from the same body, making us all sisters, all brothers, all relations, all together. And so we give thanks to her, to Mother Earth, as it is she who has given us body. From there, we give our thanks to all the women, from the newest born baby girl to the eldest grandmother, as they carry the sacred title of life giver into the world and are to be honored and respected as such. We give thanks to them for in this world, they give us purpose and direction. From there, we give our thanks to the life force that flows between all things. The energy that keeps everything alive, that keeps that worm that's burrowing through the ground, keeps that worm alive, that keeps the ants alive, the larger creatures, squirrels, chipmunks, burrowing, moles, all these things, otters, everything, every living thing is kept alive through this life force. And this life force is what we identify as Sawoyerda. And so we give thanks to this energy that flows between all things. From there, we gave our thanks to the life givers in every strain of life, not just humans. It's the life givers in every strain, that they are the perpetuators of life, that which makes it possible to continue. From there, we give our thanks to our ancestors who carried a good mind, and we ask them to help us to return our mothers back to their natural seat of authority within all our nations, so they can manage all our people properly once again. From there, where we go? We ask them to help us to return every wampum within the great law of peace back to the hearts and minds of the people, to return peace, power, righteousness, and the balanced mind, which gives way to the good mind, which is the good mind. So we give thanks for all these things, and of course, in a Honda Gadi Wadeko, you can imagine there's so much more. We did not identify all the plant life, all this and that. So obviously, the Honda Gadi Wadeko, it's done short to minimize the length of time, and to be more like a general application. So we're giving thanks for everything, but there are key points within everything that you have to identify. Like looking at the human body, you can say, oh, I give thanks for the human body, but you can break down all the different functions and everything, and you can put them pretty much like in groupings. So you give thanks for all the stuff that's in the arm, in the arms, the legs, and then you can break it down into the right arm, the left arm, right arm, left leg, right leg, right hemisphere of the brain, left hemisphere. So generalities, so that we cover everything in as quick a time as possible. Okay, a lot of things that have happened this week. I don't know if did we have anybody lined up for tonight, or this is just they're lined up for tomorrow for the reconstitution. Okay, so what did we want to talk about? Let's see if there is anything that I heard you talking about, something about Piper Lewis. Does anybody have an update on Piper Lewis? Does anybody know what is the most recent or what's her status up to date? Just as a reminder, Piper Lewis, who is this? Who are we talking about? Piper Lewis. Is this a native girl? Are we talking about a native girl? No, this is a young black girl in Iowa or Idaho? Iowa, who was at the age of 15, who was for whatever reason, she found herself on the street out of her house, and she was taken advantage of. She was prostituted out. She was raped, and in her defense, that a 37-year-old or 35-year-old man, I forget, 37, was in the act of repeating her raping her repeatedly, and in her defense of herself, she had killed him at 15 years old. This is what had happened to her. And anyways, the courts raped her again, and charging her with I forget what the charge was, but it's like criminal negligence, wrongful death type of thing. Not a manslaughter. I'm not sure if it was on that level, but anyways, the courts had her in jail. The courts made her pay $150,000 to the family of the man who raped her, who was raping her repeatedly. So imagine that. 15-year-old girl being raped repeatedly by a 37-year-old man, and in her defense, she kills him, and she has to make restitution to his family. Imagine that. It's his family that should be paying her $150,000 for each person in that family, because it's each person in that guy's family that has allowed, that was part and parcel to this guy who's now dead, in that behavior. What kind of behavior is that for a 37-year-old man? To, regardless of if it's however old the girl is, of course, the common sense here, a young girl, 37-year-old man. No, granted, sometimes, no, I'm not making excuses here. Sometimes you can't tell if a girl is underage. What is underage? When you look at some girls, the way things are today, everybody is trying to make themselves look older, you know, trying to put themselves out there, you know. So it's bad enough that it was somebody underage, but when you combine this with the act of prostitution, that this guy obviously was engaged in, whoever was her pimp, or if he was her pimp taking advantage of her, but was obviously engaged in a behavior of thinking it's okay to solicit and to put a young girl or any girl in that circumstance of prostituting. This is a corruption, and a no way could that guy, who's now dead, got no problems with saying good for him, that it's that type of behavior that was visible and that could be seen by his family, that he wasn't conducting himself proper, that in order for somebody to do something like that, it has to be conditions in their life, you know, like the 37-year-old man having to resort to prostitution. Well, what's going on in his life? Is he single? Is he a somebody who's maybe just maybe reprehensible to women? Why does a 37-year-old man have to resort to prostitution? So this reveals a condition within the person, within the family, that it's not just, oh, that person in that family is guilty of this. It's the whole family that's guilty of this. It's the family that can see the behavioral patterns developing. Probably were able to detect it when that guy was a teenager. That guy probably has a history with somebody must know, some woman must know, of a history of violence or corrupted behavior towards women. Now, this is not being investigated, it's not being talked about, but this is a conditioning that takes place in order for somebody to be 37 years old and to be in that pattern, to be in that behavior. This is not just something that just happened. Like all of a sudden they woke up in the morning and went outside their door and, oh, chain of events, and they ended up somehow having sex with a 15-year-old girl and not knowing how this came about. No, obviously, this is a pattern. It's a behavioral pattern that is within that person's life. And this is the reason why that the victim, imagine, of course, rape victim, it's not going to be a guy. So this isn't going to apply to guys. It applies to girls. That, but first they're taking a law that really does apply to guys. You kill somebody, whatever, that accidentally, or it's like in the area of manslaughter, then wrongful death. Then yeah, I could see that maybe that you might have to make restitution. But in the case of rape, this is insane that you would think that so-called lawmakers, judges, prosecutors will carry over this law of wrongful death and apply it to a 15-year-old girl who had no choice but to take the life of her abuser, who should not have been abusing her. A 37-year-old man constantly, repeatedly raping a 15-year-old girl over an extended period of time. This is insane for any so-called judicial system, any so-called judge, any so-called prosecutor to have twisted this around in such a way to be to rape more this young girl. She was raped, she's violated, she's marginalized by society to start off with, because she's a young black girl. Everybody knows that women are marginalized. Well, let's see, are black people marginalized? Yeah, they're marginalized. Women are marginalized. So are young people marginalized? Yeah. So is a young black girl even more marginalized? Of course. This is goes without saying. Of course she's marginalized. The society marginalized her. So the society is guilty for the rape and the crimes upon her. Society is, not just this one person. It's the society that creates the atmosphere that makes it acceptable. And so when the white society puts a law in place, they think that, oh, well, this is something that will, whatever, take care of the circumstances. Of course not. All the laws in the white society are corruptions, are there for to benefit the criminal, to protect the criminal. This is known from top down, everything in a non-native society. If you look at just what happened just in the past couple of weeks with this, what the heck was his name? Something Freed. He's the crypto, they call him the crypto king. He lost, I think, $27 billion overnight, like in a few days. Anyways, people consider him, are looking at him like they're almost saying, good for you. Like, you took advantage of the system, you made billions of dollars and then you lost it all. Well, they're looking at him that way because they know the behavior in the first place is that of piracy. But non-native society, this is what they nurture. They nurture piracy. So the laws that they put in place, of course, are not laws for justice. They're laws to manage pirates. So it's to say, okay, this much piracy is okay, but this much is not. As long as you don't make it visual for everyone to see, so you can get away with it. But as soon as somebody can see it a little bit, then they'll come down on you with laws, fake laws that doesn't deal with the circumstance. So like we said, from top to bottom, non-native society is corrupt. You look at the example I'm giving about this billionaire, everybody's looking at him like he was corrupt in the first place. Well, think back to 2008, when these big banks and investment companies in New York crippled the entire world economy, stole billions out of the world economy, out of your pockets. Well, are those fine, upstanding citizens? Well, they live in their mansions in New Jersey. They live in their penthouses way up above the streets in New York, and they're protected. They have politicians on their side. They have judges in their pockets, prosecutors in their pockets. So crime is the way in the non-native society. Just the fact that non-native society exists here in Turtle Island, where you would think non-native society would exist where they come from, where they belong. That's where non-native society should be. But just the fact that non-native society is around the world, spread around the world, tells you that they are a society of corruption, that they are, in fact, a society of pirates. It's that pirate ship that left Europe in 1492 and went around the world and spread its piracy. And its laws that it creates is to protect its pirates. And who are its pirates? Its pirates, the laws will protect, are the ones who are getting away with it. The ones who are not so visible on the surface. They're not projecting it out there. You have a lot of criminals that are doing things beneath the radar that no one will ever detect, that you won't even ever know that there is crime taking place right under your noses. Well, let's go back here in so-called Canada, just to the beginning of this year, the springtime. Does everybody recall when there was a large hack of Rogers network, where everybody's phones across the entire country was affected for, I don't know, about 2 days, something like that? Well, what do you think happened in that time? Not just your phones were out of order for that time. Millions, who knows, perhaps even billions of dollars were rerouted, were stolen, were shifted from there to over here, washed, cleansed, dirty money. This is what the society protects and defends. Just to identify that the non-native society is corruption from head to toe. So when a young Black girl who's marginalized on these 3 different levels, because she's young, because she's Black, because she's a girl, marginalized 3 different ways by society, and understand what marginalized means. It doesn't just mean that she's marginalized, like squeezed off to the side, like a margin on the side of a piece of paper. No, to be marginalized in non-native society, in the non-native society means to have criminal behavior inflicted upon you, where the non-native society doesn't see the crime. Did the slave owners see the crime when they were sitting on the porch of their plantation, sipping their iced tea, looking at all their slaves in the field doing the work for them? Did those white plantation owners see their own crime? Of course not. They had their politicians, their police, their judges, their prosecutors, all in their pocket, because they're all a part of the same thing. But today, what is happening is there's some type of, I don't know, like, at least like an image being put out there of like, hey, they want to maybe clean up the injustices or something, or adjust it. It's kind of like that. But when you look at the insanity that has been applied to Piper Lewis, then you can just forget about all of this. Look at where is it now? I just posted this. I think it's in Massachusetts. It's one of these New England states. They just put forward something in the state, a bill or something. I don't know what it is. I found it on CNN, an article, and they're talking about how what the heck did they call it? I can't even think of this now. Let me go to my my page to see. I just posted this thing a little while ago.
Is it about the reparations?
Yeah, reparations, that's the word.
It's Rhode Island.
Rhode Island?
Mhm.
Okay, can we share that?
Uh,
Since you got it.
Just the article or your post?
The post.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, so there's some kind of law, something that they passed in Rhode Island for, what'd you call it again?
Reparations.
Reparations. Now, reparations is exactly what it sounds like. It's to repair, to fix. So when we're looking, we're considering reparations, it's racial. It's natives, Black people, people of color, anyone who's not white, who's been affected by racism. Now, you got to consider that racism, there is a root to it, and non-native people will not want to accept this, but the root to racism is within the white European society. They are what is the racism that's in the world. Otherwise, there's no racism in the world without white people, because that's where it comes from. Now, today, you can say that, oh, Black people, native people, people of color are conducting themselves in what they identify as reverse racism. Well, reverse racism is not racism. If somebody comes and slaps you and you slap them back, you can't say you're guilty of slapping me. Because a response with the same thing as what is first inflicted upon you, you cannot be held responsible for that. Somebody pulls out a gun and points it in your face. What do you use to defend yourself? Are you going to pull out a knife? No. Are you going to raise your fist and say, oh yeah, well, come on, let's fight about it? No. Somebody who's got you in that circumstance has you in a situation of vulnerability. You are vulnerable. They have an advantage over you. Well, what is the advantage that the white people have? This is something that is not understood, not even considered by the people of the world. How could such a small group of people, white Europeans, expand around the world? What is the power that they hold over other people? Well, they don't have any power that they hold over other people. So what they utilize is they use your own, they use our own power to hold over you, the power of fear. What is that fear? What fear? We don't have no fear, so what's the fear that they hold over us? Well, it's a spiritual power. Knowing that just the mere fact that white people go anywhere around the world killing people, yet those other people that they kill will not kill them back. Will, and in most cases, will not even know how to defend themselves. Now, I'm not talking about in the here and now. I'm talking about through the process as this has happened historically, as it's gone around the world. How did it happen? How did a few people on a few boats go around the world able to kill hundreds of millions of people? How is this possible? And this is the circumstances that remains today that has Piper Lewis and other people under the thumb of racism. It's rooted in our spirituality. In our spirituality, that we are basically good people. We are good. We don't want bad. We know that we're not supposed to hurt people. We know that we're not supposed to hit somebody in the head with a rock, because when we do, hey, we see that blood comes out of their head. And we know that when blood comes out of our head or out of our bodies, our skin, that's not a good thing. It's painful. So we know that to do that to someone else, well, that's not right. So how the racism developed in the world is through people who have no moral compass in causing harm and inflicting pain and violating others. Now, who is this? Who has done this in the world? This is something that due to political correctness, nobody's addressing today. But I don't give a good goddamn about political correctness. I care about correctness, about truth, not political correctness, because truth does not have any weight or any bearing in politics. So we're not looking for political correctness. We are looking for correctness, truth. So in truth, we identify who the perpetrators of such crimes are. And the crime of racism around the world is perpetrated by the white society. And so the white society has inflicted over hundreds of years a conditioning upon the people, attacking their spirituality, with Black people especially being able to subdue their spirituality and lock it into a corruption known as Christianity, where it's this, where every natural person's spirituality can relate to Christianity, to the story. But the thing about everyone else in the world is that we're natural beings. We would never expect anyone to lie. When Christians, white Christians, this is all they do is lie. their entire existence has been a lie. And it's that which is the racism. The Christians with the Bible in their hand, the white Europeans, hopped on board their pirate ships and went around the world and murdered, raped, and stole off of every other people's. This is a historical fact. It's not anything that I'm making up or I'm deducing. I'm looking at circumstances today and trying to figure out, hey, how did this happen? Because the white man wrote volumes and volumes of books about his own behavior. He wrote his own behavior is in encyclopedias. It's in history books. So how could the people of today be afraid to address the truth that has been historically recorded by the white man himself? How could it be where, especially in the South today, that you have official government policy affecting into the schools to saying, no, you can't teach what they call critical history. What is critical history? What the hell is that? Why all of a sudden is there a critical history? Why isn't there just a history? Why? Because history is that. It's his story. So you're guaranteed it's a lie. And knowing that it's the white man that records this history, that it's him saying this is his story, guaranteed everything about it is an outright lie. And so we have all the facts of that history, but there's the lie of the so-called spiritual, of religion, of Christianity. This is what has subdued Black people. I can't believe Black people so subdued by a religion that enslaved them. How crazy do you gotta be? How ridiculous you gotta be to allow a continued enslavement to a religion that is the cause of your enslavement. How can Black people continue to be locked in to the lie of Christianity? How is that? Because Christianity isn't what you believe. The religions of this world, these are manufactured out of their old world realities. Where does Christianity originate from? Does it originate from where this guy Jesus Christ, so-called, wherever he was born, whatever he done? No, of course not. It doesn't originate there. He is a person who just came along and happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time in order to fit their propaganda machine. So they killed him, skinned him, and then wore his skin to make it look like he came back alive a few days later to substantiate their religions. And this is how people from their old world beliefs became subdued by modern day Christianity through witchcraft, because modern day Christianity is in fact witchcraft. This is the witchcraft that has subdued the minds of the people around the world from hundreds of years ago. You have to accept conduct of colonization, because it's Christianity that has colonized. It's nothing else. It's not just the white European. Yes, it's the white European, but it's the white European with the Christianized mind that has done this, because there is a lot of white Europeans still in their homelands today who do not carry the white Christianized minds, who never engaged in colonialism. They did not ever come over here, leave their homelands, come over here to steal, rape, and murder. Now, this does not make the white Europeans who stayed home, it does not make them good people, because it's their families that done this. And they have not said or done anything about their families' conduct. And so this brings us back to what the conduct of this man who was raping Piper Lewis, 37-year-old, the conduct of him, the conduct of his family, what took place prior to this rape and this event that happened with Piper Lewis, this is what conditioned him. This is what molded him. So it's his family, and not just his family of if he has children, which I highly doubt, because what would a 37-year-old man who had children be doing? Soliciting prostitution and raping a young underage girl. Well, if he's got children, then those children are a part of the corruption that formed him, molded him into being this slave to the system that allows him to conduct himself in this way. Well, he got paid for him conducting himself that way. He got his just rewards. He was killed by the person he was violating. That person, Piper Lewis, 15-year-old girl, should in no way be raped more by the system, should no way have had any kind of retribution upon her. Why? Why? A 17-year-old girl who's getting raped kills her rapist? Why would anyone in their right mind put some kind of conditions upon her? Like she is guilty of something. She is guilty of nothing. But this is an example of the, okay, maybe we can go back to that post. It's an example of how what the non-native society does in their political correctness of creating policies for reparation, but yet, as you see here in Rhode Island, that their policies for reparation, it's not there for for Native people. It's not there for Black people or people of color. It's there for the whites to benefit. How? Because now they're placing whites in the same category as Blacks or Natives or people of color who are victims of racism. They're placing poor whites in that same category. So money or lack of money is the root of the racism. No, it's not in the money. It's in the white people. So why would anybody stand for any level of government creating a bill or whatever the law, whatever it is, for reparations where white people can access that money? That's insane. That is absolute insanity. That shows you that there is no reparations, that there still is official racism, white racism within, you want to call it modern day society? Let's look at Rome 2,000 years ago. Wasn't that called modern day society 2,000 years ago? Yes, it was. What was it? Or early Greece. Wasn't that called modern day society? What was it? Did women have any rights there? Of course not. They weren't even considered people. They were owned as slaves, bought and sold and traded. That's what women experienced all along in the non-native society. So that's modern society 2,000 years ago. Women, slaves to the system, that the system could would support the male owners. If the male owners of the women wanted to prostitute out their women, the system would support that. And if the women said no or did something about it, well, the men had the right to kill them or to do anything they want, sell them. But if the women said no to it, then the laws of the time of the system of modern society would punish the women. Let's see, that's 2,000 years ago. Let's see, is this any different of right now today with Piper Lewis? It's not any different. That's the exact same thing. What's the insanity in the non-native people to think that anything has changed? If it's the exact same retribution upon women today, then how could any non-native people think that there's no racism today? You're insane. for you to think that. For any white people to think that they are not racist, well, look at in the so-called United States, right here is your living proof that a state within the United States to pass a bill of reparations that white people can access for money, that shows you the official racism from head to toe. It's from the lowest levels of so-called government, which is you, the people. You are the lowest levels of so-called government because you are the ones that open the door for them, that gives them their seats, their place to rule over you from. Right up to the highest levels of that government. Because look at this, in order for this bill to pass in Rhode Island, the governor has to sign on to that bill, the senator has to sign on to that bill, all the Congress people, whatever, have to sign on to that bill. And it has to be a bill that their lawyers approve, meaning their constitutional lawyers must approve it, knowing that on the federal level that this is what would be accepted. So to see a bill like this passed just in one state right now, you might think that, oh no, that's just one state. It's not the official policy of the entire so-called United States. Well, you're just stupid if you believe that. Because once it applies in one state, it applies in all states. It doesn't matter. So we have this current reality of what Piper Lewis is experiencing today is the exact same sexist, racist corruption that existed within the non-native people over 2,000 years ago. You can see this in their history books of early Greece, of early Rome, of early Britain, early Germany, early France, early any place in Europe, throughout their entire history, right from their darkest ages, right up until now. What does it tell you about that society? Do you think this is a good society? Do you think it's a just society? Do you think it's a fair society? Do you think it's a society of laws? No, they are still the exact same pirates that set out from Europe in 1491 to come here and to spread their piracy around the world. So there's a lot of non-native people who are with us. Are we saying that the non-native people that are with us right now that you are all guilty of this? You are all still connected to it, no matter what. It's still there. You're still connected to it. Your efforts to separate from it are positive efforts, provided that you do actually escape. Let's imagine that you're trying to escape a corruption, but you're tethered off to it somehow. You just think you're running away, but there's a 100-foot rope tied onto you, and you just think, I'm getting away. Yeah, I'm free, I'm free. And then all of a sudden, boom, that rope pulls tight, snaps you right back to reality. So this is the reality of all the non-native people today who are engaged in a proper two-row wampum relationship. Yes, you are engaged in the proper thing. You are escaping the corruption of your society, but the steps of running away will not mean anything if you do not complete it. What difference does the first 99 steps make if it's the last step that springs you right back to step one? 99 steps don't mean anything. So ensuring that your first steps of escaping are followed through on all the way through means that every time you see a corruption, non-native people, you are the ones that have to bring it out. You are the ones that have to say, no, this is a corruption in my society. You are not, just because we are engaged in two-row wampum, you are not out of non-native society. You are identifying it as corrupt, and you are identifying slowly but surely the bits and pieces. It's coming clearer and clearer into your vision. But that is not enough. Think of it in in the sense that the bus is leaving. You could have a ticket to get on the bus. You went, you purchased the ticket, you done everything you were supposed to. Maybe you're even waiting in line for the bus. But if you don't get on that bus in that very last instance, and the bus is gone, big deal, you bought a ticket. Big deal, you stood in line. So this is what we're identifying. You, the non-native people, are the ones that have to fight those corruptions. You have been watching us bring this out. So much so that in the non-native world, I haven't seen anyone fighting against the true corruptions that are responsible for locking all of you, the masses, under corruption. For instance, here, a couple of years ago, a couple of Octobers ago, there was a law that was passed in Sherbrooke, Quebec. Yeah, we can take that down now. There was a law that was passed in Sherbrooke, Quebec, that I heard on the radio. And as soon as I heard it, I thought, wow, this is insane. I would think that everybody would be up in arms about it. Yeah, if I was a non-native person living in Sherbrooke, I would have been shouting it off the mountain. I would have climbed to the top of the mountain and yelled it to everybody that it's illegal. It's against the so-called, whatever you want to call the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, whatever that piece of toilet paper is. It didn't faze anybody. There was no non-native people who gave a damn about it. You seen that it had to be us talking about it. I felt it's my experience that the non-native people can't see the results of their own actions. Like, you can't deduce. It's almost like you're using a mirror to shoot at a target over your shoulder, shoot behind you. Like, you can't see the consequences. You can't see the implications of your actions. This is what it seems like in the non-native society. And again, I say this from top to bottom, everyone in that society. Now, there is some people that are fighting these things, who are bringing out these such things, but what I see, it's the things that are meaningless. I don't see non-native people addressing the things of great importance. Oh, what were non-native people addressing here in so-called Quebec 2 years ago? What was it? Pandemic. They were restricting people's freedoms. And in the middle of that, they put up a law in Sherbrooke saying that no one could call down elected officials, that you couldn't call them names. Basically, that's what it is.
That was before, though. It was before the pandemic. So now we're talking about 3 years ago. He said 2, but it's 3 years now.
Okay, well, still, 3, you look at, you put this law that you can't call down politicians, and then within a few months of it, then you put more laws of a so-called pandemic restricting you even further. The non-native society just can't put 2 and 2 together. Like, you're being choked. You got a hand around your neck and you're being choked. It didn't matter to you when this happened to George Floyd. He even identified, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Well, collectively, the non-native society, the system, is choking everyone to where you can't breathe. I mean, who would be stupid enough? Only the people in Quebec. They're the only people who would be stupid enough to accept a law being created by politicians saying that you can't call us politicians down. Who is that law created for? It's not created for other politicians, because politicians call politicians down every day. It's their practice in their whatever they want to call where their politicians are in those buildings. That's what they do. They lie to each other every day. They call each other down every day. But if you wanted to call one of them down, you can't, because they made it illegal. So you cannot have a free thinking opinion. You cannot have a freedom of speech. Where are people that stupid to allow a law such as that to be applied? Well, there's only one place I can think of where people are that stupid, and it's here in so-called Quebec, because this is in fact the place where it was done to the people. It's not that these people, on the other side of the country, that they're that stupid. It's not that the people over there in any other province are that stupid. No, everyone in so-called Canada can look at the historical fact and identify that only in so-called Quebec are the people that stupid to allow a law that where politicians pass a law saying that you people cannot call us down. And that law will end you up with a fine of $300 if you call down even, and this is anyone who works for the city or whatever, politicians, policemen, firemen, anybody working in the system. So a garbage man comes to your house and picks up your garbage and maybe throws your can on your flower bed. And you say, hey, you stupid idiot. That guy puts a complaint on you. And you get a $300 fine. And then you say, I ain't paying this fine. That's stupid. That's illegal. And then your fine doubles. And then when you don't pay that, then the police come to your house with a warrant. What they tell you from the get-go, no, it's not a criminal offense. It's not a criminal offense. If you pay, you're fined. Fined for what? For calling down that person. You can't call them a stupid jerk, a stupid a-hole, or shit for brains or something like politicians deserve. You can't call them. You can't have an opinion and to voice, have the freedom of speech anymore to voice that opinion, because you get a fine. What they say, it's just a fine. It's not a criminal offense. So it's not a criminal offense if you pay it. What is that law? What is that? Can anyone identify what that behavior is? Anyone want to take a shot at it?
It's religified. It's a bit like going to the church and asking, to be exempt from their sins, and then you just pray or something like that.
Well, it's all part and parcel of that. The behavior. It's extortion. That's what it is. Extortion. Who is the perpetrator? The politicians who were in Sherbrooke 3 years ago. They were the perpetrators. Are they still the same politicians? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Does it matter if it's the same politicians? Because any politician that's in there, you can be damn certain they are going to take advantage of that corruption that's there for them to make money off of you, the citizen. What is the citizen? Just a taxpayer. That's all you are, just money. You are viewed as just a cha-ching, cha-ching. And as you've seen, over the last 2 years, they have figured out all kinds of ways to get every cha-ching, cha-ching out of you. Every little last penny that you have in your pocket, they have designed a method of how to steal it from you. These are your politicians. So this is how the evidence is here, how we can say that the people are in fact stupid people. Anyone of democracy, anyone who participates in it, Yeah, are you a participant in democracy? Yes, you are a stupid person. If you vote, yes, you're stupid. Because you look at the example here of what took place in Sherbrooke, and you can say, oh, well, that's in Sherbrooke, that's in so-called Quebec. Oh, I'm in Ontario, or I'm in British Columbia, or I'm in the so-called United States. Oh, yeah, you think so? You don't realize how your affiliations get you connected to corruption. And who from so-called Canada is not affiliated with the so-called United States? Who from the so-called United States is not affiliated with so-called Canada? You can say, oh, those laws don't apply, but your laws are so intertwined, your hands are so tied that it's not even you having the right to make these laws where you're at. It's the money that makes those laws. And the money makes the same laws everywhere. Money wants more money. So it figures out, where does money come from? Well, money doesn't come from anywhere. It comes from you, the citizen, the taxpayer. You are the source of money. But there's no money coming out of you. No. Like we said earlier, what was devised, what was concocted as a way of extracting it's a spiritual power. This is what they use over you. A spiritual power of religion to subdue you, where knowing that all religions have all compromised to the super religion of money, that they're all subordinate to it. Your main religion is money. And so you will do anything to keep that money flowing. Even cut off your own nose to spite your face. This is where you make a law in Sherbrooke saying that you can't call down a politician. You, in democracy, are supposed to be the government. It's supposed to be created by you. You vote in it. So let's see. Ask any person in so-called Sherbrooke, ask any person in all of Quebec if they agree with a law saying that a citizen cannot call down a politician or a city official or a city worker. But any person not substantiate, what the hell is the term I'm looking for here? Would any person give justification to that law? Anyone say, yes, I support that law, it's constitutional? Or would any person say that it's just? Would any person say that it's legal? Try to find any person who would say that law is legal, that it's just. Try to find any person that would say that, yes, I support this law as me being the foundation of the political body of the government. I am the foundation. I support this law. Try to find one person. I'll guarantee you, you'll never find that person. So who in the hell makes these laws that end up restricting you? How does it happen? This is where the non-native people, well, you subdue yourself. There is no thinking that I can see in the behavior in the non-native society. There's just no thinking that goes on. Try to prove if anybody's hurt by that, well, then try to justify how a law actually got passed and is in place in Sherbrooke, in the province of Quebec, saying that you cannot call down a politician. You can only conclude that non-native people, there's just no thinking that's happening there. No awareness. And I can testify to that myself. I actually prove this to myself time and time again, when all the things that we talk about what's happening in the non-native world, that the non-native world, the people alive are never aware of the things that we're talking about. This shows me it's the proof. It's what substantiates what I can say, what I have deduced by looking at non-natives history, that there is just no rational thought going on in the minds of the individual. The individual, what were they thinking when it was on the news saying that this law is passed in Sherbrooke? You know what the individual was thinking? I better get to the bar. I better get to the store before it closes. I better go shopping. This is on sale. This is what you're thinking, because what you are, what the non-native society is, you are the consumers. Think of that. You're the consumer. That means someone else is the producer. Someone else is the manufacturer. Someone else is the designer of all of it. And all you are is the consumer. That's all you are. So does the consumer control what is put on those shelves? No. You can say the buying power of the consumer determines it. No, it doesn't. You all know it doesn't. If the buying power of the consumer determined what would be on the shelves, then we would have had vehicles with engines running on water, hydrogen, a long time ago. We would have had biofuels way back in the 1920s when vehicles, even in the teens, when vehicles were really just starting to be mass produced. Because everybody knows, even Ford had vehicles produced out of, they were hemp-based, corn-based fuels that were biofuels, a diesel fuel that was produced out of corn. So if it was actually the consumer, the dollar, who spends the dollar, who buys stuff, if it was you that determined what was going to be on the shelves, well, you know, the world would be a lot different. So it's time to wake up to a lot of things as to what is the non-native society. What actually is the non-native society? What do they do? What is the daily routine? What do they mean? When most of you now have been with us for quite some time, maybe a few years or whatever, you know what we do. You know what we mean. You know what we do on a daily basis. What does the non-native society do? What do they mean? So here, tonight, in looking at this case about Piper Lewis, the true story there is nothing about her. The true story is about the non-native society. That's the true story. So what does the non-native society mean when a 15-year-old girl gets raped and her only thing that she sees to save herself within her power is to take the life of the person who's been raping her repeatedly, and then this society punishes her? What does the non-native society mean in that action? Anybody want to address this? What does the non-native society mean? What does it stand for? What do they do? What is their purpose in this world? Again, you know what we do on a daily basis. You know what our purpose is. You know what we mean. You know what our job is here in this world. Time to start questioning. Time for people to come up with answers as to what do the non-native people mean? What do they represent? What do they do? What are they here for? Okay, so I don't know if anybody wants to address this.
Well, there's Marie-Claude that had risen her hand for a while now.
Okay, all right, well, there you go.
Hello, I'm Marie-Claude, the great-granddaughter of Marie-Louise, the granddaughter of Yvette, and the daughter of Francine, temporary Bear Clan representative in the Life Givers Nation. I wanted to discuss about the law that was passed in Sherbrooke, because I remember we were constituted with the Life Givers Nation, and I remember wanting to take action, but like to me, like the course of action I would take is something that I would, you know, I know nothing of politics, and more than politics, it's more the news, you know. I believe it's so twisted in the news that if you even, like, I go to Radio Canada, for instance, to keep myself updated, but I know that there's tons of things that will escape my radar because they're just so twisted and hidden behind this and this and that. And if people didn't follow through constantly what's happening in the news, of course, it's really hard to find my way. And the way I oppose corruption as a non-native is to bring back the Gayanara Seraskanagoa, to talk about the Great Law of Peace, to go through that route, and in the hopes that people are going to say, this is so easily confirmed. You go online, you check Great Law of Peace. It was, the US Constitution was based on the Great Law of Peace. All right, so people can validate instantaneously and then link it to, say, residential school and what happened there and the genocide that is now affirmed, you know, like this is so evident to me. And when, you know, that people could just wake up and see, I don't want to be part of those genociders that are killing innocent children, that are terrorizing and raping and torturing those children. So in relation to what happened with the law that was passed in Sherbrooke, I'd like to play it out with you and see what we should have done, so we know next time how to oppose this. Because to me, it was, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it wouldn't go anywhere because, you know, they passed the laws and they don't care, you know. So I'm obviously wrong because you bring back this often that we didn't do anything. So what could we have done? And then is it too late to act? So.
Well, first thing that anybody should do is to verify, to clarify this. Is it in fact a law? So how can you do that? Well, now we're looking at the flashpoint is 2-3 years ago. So that's way back then. That's where it matters, right there. You know, while somebody's out to break your leg, well, you could say something about it afterwards, but your leg is broken. And yeah, it can heal back, but your leg is still broken. And you've got a broken leg that's just healed. It's never as strong again. So you got to look at, well, is this what the non-native society is? Is that we just break things and then afterwards, maybe, which you know, it never happens. You never go and look at it and address it and say, oh, well, let's fix it. You know, that never happens. So what is missing here? Right, while somebody's in the process of breaking your leg, nobody can see that something has to be done. Nobody can see what to do. Why is this? There's a conditioning, of course, that everybody's been subjected to. What is it? What's the conditioning? How come you and other people don't know? Why? If the people are the foundation of the government and the people vote in the government and put the politicians in there to do the stuff that the people say, then you would think that you would know everything. The politicians are responsible for telling you. Let's see what your corruption is in the non-native world. Where are your politicians? Do you have access to them? No, you don't. You could say, oh, well, you can always call your, what do they call them, MNAs or something? You could always call at their office. You can even go and visit them. Anybody can go and visit them. What good would that do? What difference would that make? When everything that they do is in secret, it's behind closed doors, and afterwards, when it is done, you don't have access to them to ask them anything. Who has access to your politicians? Anybody?
The media that are actually corrupted.
Reporters. Who are reporters? Are they citizens? No, they're not. They may be tax-paying citizens, but in the capacity of their job, they work for that institution, that organization, that corporate entity. And there, they cannot ask questions as a citizen. They can only ask questions as a reporter based on what their corporate entity tells them to report on. So here's the corruption in the non-native world of that you think you have a democracy, and you even come up with terms of direct democracy. Why do you think that there would have to be a terminology of direct democracy when isn't so-called democracy itself? Where is this illusion of direct democracy? Where does this come in from? What is it there for? It identifies in the first place that the terminology of direct democracy clearly identifies that you don't have democracy. Because if you have to say direct democracy, then what is the democracy that exists right now? What is it? The fact that the terminology of direct democracy even exists in the world tells you that democracy is a lie. Democracy is a lie. You've heard us saying this forever. Well, non-native people, they've been living that lie. So you believe democracy, you can't ask your politicians anything because you don't have access to them. Somehow the society has acquiesced. Oh, they just step back and said, oh, okay, let's let these few people who are corporately owned, let's let them stand in between us and the politicians. Let's let reporters talk to our politicians for us. And let's have these reporters who are corporate sponsored, who can only say what their corporate entity allows them to say. Let's have these reporters represent the truth from our politicians to us. They disseminate all the information to us. Therein is your one of your corruptions in democracy, that you don't have access to your politicians. Is that a surprise? Well, here in so-called Quebec, those politicians passed a law that if you said anything bad about them, they again can fine you. So it's just more validation of the fact of the corruption of democracy, that the people don't mean anything. All they want is your vote, because once they got your vote, they got you as the tax base. You identify. Once you're a voter, take anything that you can from me. Take everything that you can. So the people, to fight against this, what would they do? Well, let's go back to 3 Octobers ago when this happened. What would the people do? I would have screamed bloody murder. I would have got up and stood on the highway with a big sign. I would have stood right in front of City Hall in Sherbrooke, or in the National Assembly in Quebec City, and stood there and yelled at the National Assembly. How could they allow a municipality within the province of Quebec to do this when it's unconstitutional? How could it be allowed? Isn't it unconstitutional? Anybody that's with us, tell me, is it unconstitutional? Is it unjust? Is it unfair? Is it right that a politician can pass a law saying that you, the citizens, cannot exercise free speech, and calling them a complete idiot? You're a jerk. You're a dumbass. And even worse. Is that fair? Is that justice? Is that democracy? Anybody? Is that constitutional?
No, that's not Constitution.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Or is that just Mary Claude that says it's not constitutional? What is it collectively? What do we believe collectively?
Of course.
Well, you see, this is the problem in the non-native society. One person says something. Everyone else, out of fear, doesn't say anything. Now, right here, you could say, well, why didn't anybody else say anything? Why didn't weigh in on it? Fear, not fear of me, but fear of just that, well, they just don't know. They just don't know what they're going to say. They don't know what the truth is. So everybody's left in fear of that. You just don't know. So just like when we pointed it out 3 years ago, everybody had the chance to do something about it, but even still, right there in that time frame, even though myself, I presented it to everybody, everyone still wasn't sure. They just didn't know. And when you're not sure and you don't know, then there's fear. Because if you're going to take action against on that level, there's on political, there's always retribution to the person, as you know. The person will be targeted by the system. So this is what all non-native people are aware of. It's in the subconscious, in your psyche. You're not aware of it consciously. That all are part of a gang. And being part of that gang, there is a like a default system, like in your computer. A default system that everyone automatically falls back on and functions under. And in the non-native world, like we said earlier, the root of it, it's Christianity. So it's Christianity that has created doubt in everybody, because Christianity is based on lies. So to get you to believe a lie, your whole world has to be turned upside down. You're no longer believing in truth, you're believing in lie. So the non-native world is stuck in absolutely anything that's going to happen on any level. The non-native people are stuck nowhere. You are in this place that religion, that Christianity identifies as limbo or purgatory. That's where the non-native world is, the non-native society. Every citizen in the non-native society, they're stuck there in this construct in the human psyche, because religion had to create a construct within the human psyche to subdue it, to lock it into a darkness, into a small box, tiny box, where it can't get out of. There's no logical thought, no freedom of thought, no logic, no reason. So the people are stuck, not out of fear, not being able to do anything. So 2-3 years ago, when we said something, I understand that the people here with us, that you probably wouldn't wanted to have taken an action on that level against the Quebec government, because that's who it is. It's the Quebec government. It's not the city hall in Sherbrooke. It's the Quebec government. So I didn't think any of you would want to stand up and fight against them at the time, because all were engaged in a two-wampum relationship. So this is what's happening with the non-native people who are engaged with us. You're thinking that being engaged with us is what will save you. No, what will save you is, yes, being engaged with us, but also being engaged with that entity that is engaged with you, that you have to break it. You can't just think that you're going to escape it. Non-native people, you think you can escape your system? Look how old your system is. Look at all the people it subdued over thousands of years. Complete slavery. Do you think that the non-native people are going to know how to break out of this? No. So, yes, by working with us, this is the, like if you're looking at a scale, and things are corrupted on one end and you want to bring balance. So yes, you got to put weight on the other end. This is where you got to put your weight in order to bring balance. But think of this, if you walk over to that side of the scale to put your weight there to level things off, but you're stuck and connected to that government, that system, that Christianity, all the stupidity of the colonial mind, you'll be carrying that. So you'll be shifting that corruption rate over, and the tides will be shifted to the other way, but it will still be the corruption. It will not be the proper balance. So non-native people engaged in two-row wampum, you got to keep tearing apart your system. You can't just let it continue. But how do you engage in it if you want to be separate from it? Well, then this is your responsibility. It's not mine. Not my responsibility to be pointing out to you how corrupt you are. Look at the law that you passed that you allow to happen in Sherbrooke. What can you do about it now? You can have that law rescinded. How? Why? Do you have to be a part of that society to have it rescinded? No. All you have to do is look at, there's in the States, there's a woman taking, who the heck is it now? She's suing some company, I forget who it is, it's food or something, or maybe it's a fast food chain or something, for $24 million for false advertising. This is and big deal. She's just a consumer, but she's taking this company, suing them for $24 million for false advertising. She's not a part of the company. Maybe, I don't know if she even bought anything, whatever. You don't have to be a part of the company to be able to bring such a charge against them. Is Canada a democracy? Wow. Come on, look what just happened here in so-called Quebec. Wasn't there just 3 elected officials who refused to swear their allegiance to the King of England? No. How crazy. That woman they called the Queen, that everybody was calling down and nobody wanted anything to do with, she just died. You would think that, hey, Quebec would be out of their clutches, but yet the Sergeant of Arms in the National Assembly for Quebec upheld that law that elected officials have to swear their allegiance to their monarch, which now is their king. Isn't that crazy? Is so-called Canada a democracy? It's never been. So what's going on here? The people of so-called Canada are in this mind FU, you know, that word that I use, that dirty word. The people of so-called Canada are in that, but the people of so-called Quebec are in a double one. Yous are getting doubly screwed. All the people in so-called Quebec. And the ones who are getting more than doubly screwed, getting exponentially screwed, are the people who believe in the sovereigntist movement, the people who believe in Quebecois identity. They're the ones that are getting screwed over exponentially, but they're stupid enough to keep participating in the democracy that gives it all away. What's wrong with the people? What is wrong with the non-native people? There's something wrong in the thinking, in the brain function, to be able to compute. This is wrong. I don't participate in it. This has been broken in the non-native society for well over 1,000 years at least. So this reflects in today as to what anybody is going to do, because it just, even if you believe it 100% that it's wrong, well, after a couple of thousand years of being in this line of corruption, one person's gonna look back at the whole line and say, well, what can I say to affect this? What can I do? And this is where non-native people just acquiesce. They don't even realize how they've given up, really given up. You think this is a society of people with hopes and dreams? What kind of hopes and dreams can you have in a system where your politicians are dictators? What kind of hopes and dreams did they have in early Greece or early Rome? What kind of hopes and dreams did any European people ever have that could ever be realized? There is something wrong, very wrong, not evolved in the minds of the white Europeans in order to just have all of these things steamroll over you and not to be able to see it and not to be able to know what to do about it. Not even to be able to point it out. Hey, that's wrong. Remember that when I brought this out to everybody, nobody knew nothing about it. Everybody was shocked. How come? Why? I live in the same space and time that all the non-native people are living. But yet, I was aware of what was happening to you, and you weren't. This is not a political problem. This is a problem in the human psyche, in the white European. It's exclusively within them. But this, again, this behavior is de facto into others through Christianity. Here in so-called Quebec, as you know, one of the biggest Christian-based, Christian-influenced places, corruptions on earth, French society. And you think of when that king, whoever the hell, whatever his name was, sent those women over here, that Fida, what they call them? Fida what? The king's daughters. How was that possible? What is the structure that the king had? The structure that the king had that gave him power was religion, was the Christian religion. This is why everybody here in Quebec, so-called Quebec, they're screwed. You're screwed over royally. Look at the French. Since, let's go back to the FLQ days, because that was the pinnacle. This is where they were being manipulated. It was never true, FLQ. It wasn't true what happened back then. That was all mafia that took place, and the government used the mafia to get rid of the French problem. The French separatist problem, because French separatists don't know how to keep corruption out of them. So they had infiltrators all around them. And so those infiltrators is what manipulated them back in the time of the FLQ to have everybody think that, oh, it's the Quebec separatists that done this. Let's look back in history. The Quebec separatists, weren't they targeted? Weren't the, what they call them, the Patriot? Weren't they hunted, tracked down like dogs, hunted and killed? This is what happened to them. But yet, the system that done this to them, Christianity, democracy, all the other French people, their sisters and brothers, they themselves continued participating in it, continued voting in it. What is wrong in the white European mind? Something wrong. We pointed it out, what needed to be done, and there was no non-native people who did anything at the time to protest or fight against that law that was being passed in Sherbrooke. Nobody. Nobody did anything. So I don't know what's wrong. I do know how my mind thinks. I can go right back to as early as 8 years old. The first time that I, of my own choosing, chose to attend town meetings here in Gunawaga. At 8 years old. At 12 years old, as you know, 12 years old was a very big year for me. 12 years old was the first time I spoke in a town meeting in front of everybody. Because I see what's wrong. And I know what my power is to do something about it, is to communicate. So then the ability of fighting this lies solely within me. So if there's something I gotta fight, meaning to bring out to the attention of other people, and if they can't see it, well, then there's a problem in me, in the way that I'm fighting it, in the way that I'm communicating. So everybody own that. The problem isn't elsewhere. The problem is with you. You are the problem in everything. You. And I'm not talking just to you, Mary Claude. I'm talking to everybody. You are the problem of so-called democracy. You are the problem why the corruption is in the world. Why? Because you are part of a gang of pirates. So who will remain to be a part of a gang of pirates? Only pirates. It's only people who are looking to what they can steal, what they can get out of it, what they can prosper from. This is the only reason why people don't fight against stuff. So let's say in the non-native world, it's like this. All of a sudden, people seeing that, let's say, fighting against 5G. But then a company contacts them and says, hey, we'll pay you $50,000 a year to put this 5G antenna on your property. Right away, boom, there goes the person's argument. They'll go for the $50,000 a year because the system knows that you're talking against it. So they'll squeeze you in your money over here. They'll attack you over there to make sure that you got no income, so that you're going to be squeezed into allowing having a 5G tower on your property. This is how everyone complies, because you're in a gang of pirates. There's no one you can trust. Everybody, absolutely everyone, even family members, are waiting to stab you in the back if they haven't already done so. That's the non-native society. Now, the non-native society could say, no, we're not like that. Oh yeah, is that so? Gee, just step out your door and take a look at the non-native society. And you'll see this is the fact. Is it what I'm saying? So to fight this, look, let's go back right now and look at it 3 years ago. What should have been done? Okay, well, we could have done anything. Anybody could have stood up and yelled in the streets, could have went to the National Assembly. You can start a campaign right now. How can a law like this be considered constitutional? This law must be rescinded. Any politicians who pass this law must resign or be taken out of position of politics, not to ever be able to be in politics again. Because once a person is part of something, passing a law that is unconstitutional, you can never have that person be in that position again. But think about this. How many elections were there in Sherbrooke since that time, 3 years ago? Maybe only one election since that time? Well, that means that all those corrupt politicians who passed that law 3 years ago, they stayed in for at least, what, a year, year and a half, maybe 2 years. I don't know when their elections were. If they passed a law so corrupt back then, what do you think they done every day after that? More corruption every day. So this is an action that you can still take. And it doesn't have to be taken to say as a citizen or whatever, it could be a challenge. How can a challenge to all of so-called Canada? How can Canada be involved in reconstitution? They're liars, they can't be. Reconstitution would be to, not reconstitution, reconciliation, sorry. Reconciliation would mean to reconcile with the people that you have done crimes against. Well, let's see. They're doing this to their own. This is just 3 years ago in Sherbrooke, restricting their own people. You think Canada is going to have a reconciliation with us when they're still doing this to their own? Every non-native person, you've been living lies. Your parents have been living lies. Your grandparents have been living lies. And now your generation, I don't care where you are in the world, the current generation of non-native people, you are left holding the bag of the last, what, 100 generations? How many generations in 1,000 years of corruption? You're left holding the bag because now it all comes down upon you. Not that, ooh, there's some correction coming, but what's happening in the world? The end result of the combined behavior of all the non-native people are creating it so that the only thing left in the world is corruption, destruction, which means there will be nothing left in the world. So non-native people very soon, what good is it going to be even to tell the non-native people, hey, there's this corruption, that corruption. Non-native people never fight against any corruption. They never stop any corruption. What's the good in telling them? What's the purpose? Who of the non-native people is going to be the one that stands for truth? So you can still fight this law in Sherbrooke. It's not that you're going to fight it to prevent it from getting on the books. You fight it by presenting it to the people of, here's this one thing, it's unconstitutional, it's unjust, it's unfair. No politician, no constitutional lawyer should have approved it, which means that the lawyers working for Sherbrooke 3 years ago, they should all be fired. Their firms should be broken up. They should be dissolved. The whole firm, not just that one lawyer, they should be disbarred, and their whole firm should be disbarred also, should be dissolved, because that firm, that lawyer was the expert in that field of constitutional law, which the corrupt politicians turned to in Sherbrooke to say, hey, here's the law we wrote. What do you think? Here we go. If that constitutional lawyer would have said, no, you can't do this, that maybe would have stopped it there. So it shows you that not only is it the politicians, not only is it the prosecutors, the judges, it's absolutely everybody there. So you can still do that. You can still fight against that thing and address that. I don't know what you think about that. Anything else you want to say on this, and then we'll move on.
Well, thank you for this. Of course, I'm thinking, okay, a campaign, but immediately I'm thinking, well, what's more urgent, because this is also what we have to deal with. It's coming from all sides, all directions. It's on all levels. Corruption now, it's everywhere. Our Mother Earth is being destroyed everywhere. I mean, we can also just think of nuclear. Okay, that's a campaign. We can think of residential school. That's a campaign. We can, it's all corrupt. I mean, I don't have to be convinced of that. So what I'm thinking is that, could I, because now with the case, in court that will be, heard in March, the little experience I had there, I mean, I see the power of the Turo Wampum, the great law of peace. So the idea I come with is that, why don't I do a package of all those corruption? I named them all, like the moon, colonization that is like absolutely, that's also unconstitutional because it's going to kill us all. So, you know, the moon, residential school, that there's genocide, it's not being addressed by anyone. The great law of peace is the supreme law of the land, but somehow they don't teach it at school. You know, the unconstitutional law. I mean, I'm going to have a book written of things that I want to bring to court, but I'm thinking I'm just going to bring the Quebec government to court then, and I'm going to represent myself, and I'm going to, you know, because it seems that any action that anyone is going to do, like, okay, I don't mind even going and sleep in front of the parliament or do something, but I know that it's going to end up like arresting me, you know. So it seems that to be the only place we can actually speak to the gang is actually in court, because you can actually speak, and then this is all registered. So I don't know, like I'm thinking, because I'm sick of it, I'm really seeing the monsters. It's killing everything. We're going to disappear. This is the survival of life that is at stake right now. So, I mean, I don't mind, like, I would feel more like, you know, we have to be efficient with our time. So what would you think of that? And then I mediatize that and I say, well, I'm bringing Quebec government to court, and whatever we package, we brainstorm it in the Life Givers Nation, and I can go in front of the parliament to talk about it. I mean, I don't mind having a tent there, you know, and so this is the idea comes to my mind. So
Yeah, well, you see, here you need feet on the ground. You need other people. So in the non-native society, the reason why all of this is able to steamroll over you is because there's no organization in the non-native society. You have structures preventing organization. What the structures are, again, Christianity, that's the structure preventing citizen organization. The politic itself, the political body, is a structure preventing citizen organization. So your whole structures all around you, your school structures, prevent citizen organization. Everything about you prevents citizen organization. So you have all kinds of structures that people accept, that they participate in, they prosper from, because these structures, Christianity, the political body, the schools, institutions, all of these structures are the genociding, colonizing structures. This is the things that are the that prosper off of colonization from genocide. So you need to be able to have organization. Now, 3 years ago, did you have organization? No, you didn't. Now you have organization. You don't have structures. Organization and structures are two different things. So the structure of the Catholic Church is disorganization. The structure of democracy is disorganization. It's designed to break down, to have the individual, so that no individual can represent anything, can be the one standing to fight this or fight that. Unless, like you said, then it's in court. The only way you get into court is if they take you into court. And then once you're in court, you're there under criminal. You're not there under as a person seen as a person addressing constitutional issues. You're brought into court as a criminal. So the court is that part of that structure preventing organization. So this is what this is needed for people to be able to do this, to be able to have an organization of the society, to be able to determine what is the most important matter, what's the most important, most crucial issue at this moment that we must address. Now, level of importance may be based on many different things. At one instance, you might find this is the most important thing, but then tomorrow it might take a back seat to something else for different factors, you know, as to why it would be the most important at this time. But you need organization to be able to get to that point, because as you know, you need to have public public awareness, a council, public to be able to adjust things on all of its own merits, to be able to deduce from the collective mind as to what we adjust today, what we're going to adjust the next day, this and that. So the organization of the Women's Nation, this is what was identified. It was created for the purpose of taking over the responsibility of the Degani Diohad. Because the white man, he is the devil himself. He manifested himself out of his own bad thoughts. He nurtured his own bad thoughts. He tied up any goodness in him, preventing the goodness from overpowering the badness. The badness flourishes in the white man's world. They do not identify and isolate negatives or corruptions. They have never done that. That's never happened in the non-native world. So this tells you no evolution. There is always just the people devolving. Now, devolution, devolving means the people get stupider, stupider and stupider and stupider with each generation. To the point of where, how stupid do the people have to be that is this generation realizing that, hey, this is the generation holding the bag for all other generations before? Is this generation smart? Or are they actually the stupidest generation ever? If you're in a devolution, you can easily deduce that wherever you are in time, if you are in the here and now, put yourself on a stairs going down. So wherever you are in the here and now, maybe you're the first step from the top. Okay, so from there, in that devolution, is that smarter or is that stupider? Because the step above, the previous step, had such knowledge. Now think of this. Again, I gotta say how stupid the entire non-native world is today. To know that there's ruins around the world, ruins of long lost societies. This is what is the accepted explanation. That there are ruins from long lost forgotten societies. That the people of today have no clue of all these things scattered all around our Mother Earth. That were built by who? Is there aliens here? Can people say there were aliens? Yes, people can say there's aliens that built these things, but is there proof of these aliens? Maybe people can say there's this proof or that proof. Let's deal with the one reality that we know. The one reality that we know is that there are aliens here. You know what they are? You know who they look like? They're white people. They're Europeans. These are the aliens that are here. Now, they may not be alien to Europe, but they're not in Europe. They're here. And they're everywhere else on Earth. That means they're alien to where they're at. They're not from where they are. So, let's see. Who built all these structures from these ancient societies that every scientist of today, any learned person of today can identify that these structures of long lost societies can obviously, there's some evidence, there's proof there that those societies had a greater knowledge of things than what the current society does. But why do we call it long lost societies? Why is there a disconnect from us knowing what that was when it's humans It's not some alien that came from some other planet and came like and had these building blocks like Legos to build these giant pyramids, to build these other things, to build all these other stuff all around the world that shows that there was some kind of technology on this earth far greater than a computer. A computer is the stupidest technology that we could ever create, because what it does is it does the job of democracy. What is the job of democracy? To take the power from you. What is a computer? It's a brain. It's information, knowledge. Hey, what is the original holder of knowledge in creation? Human memory. That's the original holder of knowledge. So the current state of what the world is, it's because of democracy, and that is taken knowledge out of the minds of people, and it's put it in this thing that we're in. We're in this computer thing. How could the world be so stupid to allow a gap in our knowledge? Ancient cities, ancient temples, ancient whatever, thousands of years old, that we can't even imagine the technology today that created it. They cannot duplicate it today. Shows us, that we've been hoodwinked. What hoodwinked us? Non-native people. Address it. What hoodwinked you is Christianity. Your religification. The stupidest thing that ever happened to creation is to put some belief in something else other than creation. Imagine you don't believe in yourself. How can you get anything done if you don't believe in yourself? Well, the non-native world doesn't get anything good done. Nothing good. They don't believe in themselves as humans. Because I'm a human. And I believe in human. And I do things every day that are good for humans. I address things every day. So much so that I'm forcing you to address things. I'm forcing your minds to be confronted with these corruptions. So there is no excuse for it in the world. No excuse that anyone can come up with. And me identifying religion, that's an excuse. That's all that the non-native people have, is just excuses. There is no justifiable reason. There's just excuses. So 3 years ago, yeah, maybe you didn't know, you couldn't see where you were coming from, where you were going. Now he's got a little bit more organization to use. You can even determine who's going to do this job and that job, because there's more of you. Who can address this at this time when we have these other things to focus on? There's a possibility of getting these things addressed if people wake up. Is it going to happen? I'll tell you from what I see, it's not going to happen. It's not even happening within native people. They're just not waking up. They've been so religified, so Christianized, that our people don't even know when they're thinking like a Christian, corrupt, just like a Christian. They got no clue of it. Anyways, well, see where it goes from here. If there's maybe the next thing you see coming down the pipe, if anybody's going to do anything about it. But this should be a good little exercise, I would say. It would be something that anybody can fight. Anybody could put that forward and to address, is this constitutional? And then you might find out use that terminology. Is this constitutional? You might find out here in so-called Canada, you don't have a constitution. Well, you know that you don't, it's called a Charter of Rights. And you think that that's rights, but it's not. When you got a charter, as opposed to a constitution, then a charter can only tell you what you can't do. It's restrictions. A charter can't tell you what you can do. A constitution can tell you what you can do. So, yeah, maybe there's gonna be some movement there.
And just so you know, there's Kelly also that raised her hand and it's already 9:03.
Okay, so I don't know if you got anything else to say on this. We'll close up and then we'll go to Kelly.
Yeah, last question. So you said that then bringing, say, Quebec government to court would be an action that could work. Now, and then you say that the organization, so Life Givers Nation, so the fact that I'm connected to your court case and I'm having to face, I'm already charged criminally, and they want to charge me $465,000 for doing the right thing of reconciliation. So this will go in March. Could I countersue them as a representative of the Life Givers Nation, as the holder, the official holder of the 2-row wampum? Can I lodge that already in the court case that I'm facing right now? So.
Yeah, that could be done, but your court case is pending my court case. So you really can't do anything in your court case. The fact is if my court case gets thrown out, you can't do nothing. You just say, you walk away from it. It's like going to a gang fight and, well, the gang fight didn't happen. So you just walk away, nothing happens. But as you know, there ain't gonna be nothing happening with that case. You know that they're running away from it. As you know, I did not accept their warrants upon me, their attempts to serve me with this or that. And you know, my position that I put in court saying that I am not going to comply, that you're going to have to arrest me, and that when you do, that I'm going to put these charges of systemic racism, systemic genocidal racism. So, you know that when they did get me into court, which was when in April, that I asked for a postponement until October due to the law recital. Now, you remember that within that case, the prosecutor said, okay, well, then you got to request special to have it postponed that far because it's within the time frame of an expedient trial. So I had to request to have it postponed from April to October. Now, when we came back, as you know, they postponed it from October to March. What is that? October, November, December, January, February, March. 6 months. 6 months they postponed it. Hey, if I had to ask for a postponement from April, May, June, July, August, September, October, 7 months, I had to ask for a postponement of that because it was too long from the legal perspective for justice. So them postponing it means they're throwing the case out. You know, they don't want to touch it. There's too much involved in it. They want me to put forward that, hey, look, this was way beyond me having an expedient trial, proper amount of time, and they're expecting me to ask for it to be thrown out. But if you recall, when we were there talking to the prosecutor, I said to the prosecutor, I says, you know, there's reasons already that I can ask to have this thrown out. But I says, I ain't gonna. And the prosecutor said, yeah, but I might. So the prosecutor admitted that there's reasons to have it thrown out. So if there's reasons to have it thrown out, them asking for a or them not even asking, them just implementing a postponement. The judge wasn't there. The people who were supposed to be there were not there. All they said, well, it's postponed. So that is illegal. It's illegal to do that. So they expected then and there for me to say, no, it's too long. So the fact of him saying he might have it thrown out and having this pushed back that far is identifying that when we come back into court, they're going to push for another postponement. In March, there's going to be another postponement. And in there, this is where they're going to make it disappear. They're going to make it go away. And then from that point, once they throw it out, then my countersuit of what is it now? It's 25 million it's up to. My countersuit of suing them for systemic racial genocide is gone. Once they throw it out. I would then have to apply into their court, which they know I will not do. Because if I did, it undermines my position of what I would be bringing into court. So they know it's not going to happen. So they are pushing it to a point of where it's just going to dissolve. Now, for you to bring that into court, it might be something at that time, but up until then, there's really nothing on your side. It would even be it'd be a waste of time, even like to say this is what we'll do or this is what will happen, because there's too many factors right now in making it just disappear. That's what I see happening in that system. This is what the court does. The court is nothing but a bully to everyone. So never use a lawyer, because the moment anyone uses a lawyer, you agree to the bully conditions. You agree to it. When you don't use a lawyer and you identify that I have the right to represent myself, then this court has to accommodate my self-representation, which means, well, the court will say, well, it's got to be this long. No, now it has to be as long as it takes for you to be able to do the research or whatever, to get yourself up to speed on their laws or whatever, to know how those laws affect you. And once you're in that position, the person has the right to lock the court into performing its job as justice and law, because the court is supposed to identify to you when there is a law in your favor, when there is a law that the prosecution is trying to use that they can't, that is against, that is not constitutional, but they allow this to happen all the time. The judge won't do that as long as you have a lawyer. As long as you got a lawyer, you agree to the terms of the bullying of the court. So the court is a lie. There's a whole machination there that everybody wants to, is afraid of. Because they can throw your ass in jail. Because they can just take anything they want from you. Now, they do that to non-native people all the time. You think about this. What non-native person ever went into court and it didn't cost you an arm and a leg, maybe even a house, you know, a vehicle at least. Going into court costs you. Even if you are defending, somebody's accusing you and there's no evidence or whatever, you gotta hire a lawyer to defend yourself. Nope. The moment you do that, you are agreeing to the corruption of the court. So no one is to use a lawyer. They are to represent themselves and to identify that the court, the judicial system, has to accommodate their rate of movement in whatever's got to happen in court, because again, the person has to do research on this or that. So, by the time March comes around for my case, your case, it's pending mine. So you know that this is what's gonna happen. It's gonna either be another postponement or it'll just be thrown out right then and there. And then we'll see about any efforts after that. Think about this. Right now, they threatened your house. They threatened you. So that means that you're like in a fight right now for your house, for you. That fight goes away. That means they lost because they already threatened you. They lost in the fight for your house, in the fight of the other arguments, the money, other things that they said, even you not to have any association to me, dictating to people as to who you can communicate with. And the only way they can do that is based on if you do in fact have you're charged and found guilty of having some type of criminal whatever relationship with that person. But before you're found guilty, they cannot put that upon you because there's no evidence to justify it or substantiate it. So this is where you know the court is a liar. The court is a bully. Lawyers, judges, prosecutors, they are all corrupt. They are all part of the same game. They're bullies, bullying you. You are supposed to be the one owning this system, and they have put themselves in a position to bully over you. That's the courts. That's the corruption. So is the corruption this thing in Sherbrooke? Or is the corruption the court itself? It's the court. This is where you look into what the white European was, the males. They are what they referred to the Mohawks. The white European males are a pit of snakes. They are corruption that you cannot tell because they all hide within corporate. They all hide behind that. And you know that you cannot do anything to a corporation. That's why the white man created corporations so that they can get away with piracy. So the first thing that has to be addressed is the white man's court. It's that corruption that perpetuates his corruption into actually every other part of the human existence. Okay, anyways, on this issue, these issues, a lot more talking, a lot more understanding has to come about on this. But this is the start to it. The non-native people have to talk about it. There was this guy, David Icke, or Ike, whatever, Ike, or whatever his name is. He started talking about the corruptions. And he got a lot of people to address it, to become aware. But the corruption of the system crushes such people. It's just doing the same thing with this other guy in the States right now. The heck was his name? He was denying the school shootings. He had a syndicated radio show. You know, he was like on the levels of like that Joe Rogan, and he was in court. They just ruled against him. It was in civil court. Ruled against him that he has to pay, I forget how many millions or hundreds of millions, or I don't know, it might be even into the billions, I forget. It was just out in the news last week. I forget what the hell's this guy's name. Shit. If anybody can remember, anybody knows who I'm talking about, just throw it out there. He's a white guy who was bringing a lot of information out to the people, but he also was a denier of these school shootings. And so as a denier of the school shootings, imagine to have in court, you just denied it. You just said that didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Imagine being able to be sued for that. And the court ruling against you. What is that? What did the person do? Did the person do anything? No. Did he violate anybody? Well, maybe he hurt their feelings. But did he do anything illegal? Well, not according to their charter, their constitution, which guarantees the right of freedom of speech. He didn't do anything. But why then would they be able to have this ruling in the States where it's unconstitutional? I say it's directly because of this law in Sherbrooke. Now, anybody in the United States is going to be saying, no, I'm crazy. No way. How can I associate that with that when this is decided in a civil court in the United States that this guy has to pay restitution? I don't know. Maybe can somebody look that up? Maybe just do a search. Sandy Hook school trial or something. Who the hell was the guy denying this? Jones. Alex Jones. Alex Jones. Okay, type him up right now, Alex Jones, and see how much he's got to pay, what the court ruled against him. Somebody.
Almost $1 billion.
$1 billion. Now you see, this is something that, well, the people are not concerned about, because there's two trains of thought here. The people who are hurt by his words, the people who had their children killed. He said it's not true. It didn't really happen. He said that they were crisis actors in the schools, crisis actors anyways. He said it didn't happen. Okay, so isn't that his right to be able to say that? Isn't that freedom of speech? Can't you deny a fact? That's freedom of speech. You can come up and say the earth is flat. You don't see them taking any people who are saying the earth is flat to court and charging them $1 billion. This is a corruption so deep that it makes everybody scared on both sides. The people who are the family who of the victims, they don't want to say anything either. But they know that this is a corruption. They know that it is against their constitution. It's an unconstitutional ruling. But they got $1 billion, they think. They're not getting anything from him because he filed for bankruptcy. Maybe they dissolved the company and they spread out whatever his company's worth, maybe a few $1 million. He's a media company, but a bankrupt company, what is there to disperse? It's mostly all virtual. So what are they winning? Nothing. They went in with spite. They were hurt. Their children were murdered. They were hurt that somebody was denying that that happened. So they were wrong in taking that to court. They know they're corrupt. And they knew that the court would go along with them because there's a big corruption happening in the so-called United States. So those people who took this Alex Jones to court, they know that it's wrong to take him to court. They know that it's wrong to sue him. It goes against their constitutional rights. The fact that they did it, it was out of greed, And it was out of spite. It was out of their own emotion. And they have compromised all the people in the so-called United States, because once that ruling is there, all freedoms of speech are gone. Because if you can rule it away because of emotion, that there's a woman crying, there's a man crying, this is my son, this is my daughter, they were actually killed, you got no right to deny that they were killed. What the hell does it mean to them if that guy's denying that they were killed? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. They were manipulated by a system that is out to suppress the people, out to take away rights, out to steal as much as it can from everybody. So people have become complacent with it, that on that side, even their friends, they don't want to say nothing, but their friends are staying shut up and knowing, hey, their constitutional rights of freedom of speech is gone now also, but they don't want to say it. And then the people who are on the side of this Alex Jones supporters, they don't want to come out and become more vociferous. They don't want to do that now because they know that the system is not a judicial system. They know that this is where people get burned in the streets as being witches. This is where women get assassinated in the streets of Washington, D.C., shot in broad daylight in front of their one-year-old daughter, while Obama was this president. This is modern day witch hunts. Alex Jones is a victim. He is, you go back to 400 or 500 years ago, if you would have been in a witch trial, you would have seen somebody like Alex Jones. And you would have seen the same type. He was certain that, hey, we got constitutional rights. He was certain. And he was certain he was within his constitutional rights because he has constitutional lawyers telling him that this is your right. Nobody has the right to tell you that you can't say what you're saying. But they're doing that. How did they first start working this in with the people? Through the Jews. By saying anybody that said anything, right away you're anti-Semitic. Oh, so you can't stand for truth. No, just because it's the Jews, because a few Jews got murdered, were genocided upon. Because of that, now Jews can be corrupt as much as they want. Look at Israel, right out in front of the whole world, can be the Nazis that they were complaining about. And everyone in the world is afraid to say anything. Why? Why do you think people are afraid? Because the reality is of that court stealing everything off of you. That's what they'll do on the surface. But you know that they will kill you. This is the corruption of the white man and his religions. That they are murderers who will kill anyone who is against them, who stands for truth, who doesn't want that corruption. So the non-native people, you are stuck in a circumstance of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But if you don't, you're going to be even more damned. So it's a matter of being damned or just damned. What do you want to be? You want to be double damned or damned? Because there's no getting away from the corruptions that the white people have created and caused in this world. There's no escaping it. You know, no matter how many white men, and it's really only white men, who are the deniers. Doesn't matter how many people deny, it ain't going to change the fact. White people, I could almost feel it. I could almost guess that each night that these main corrupt ones go to sleep, that they live in fear. In every aspect, fear of their money, fear of this, fear. They got to have security cameras. They got to have security guards. They got to have people who are trained to murder people around them all the time. They got to have armed guards around them all the time. This is the white man. Why do you think? Why do we think we're in this state as the whole world is in this state? Why? It's because someone's responsible. It comes from one place. So, for any whites to get out of it, it's gonna be an uphill battle, but it's gonna be a constant battle. You may see me battling, let's say, from 9 to 5. Well, you gotta battle 24 hours a day. I don't have to. At least I get time off. Non-native people, yous ain't getting no time off for nothing. If you wanna survive, if you wanna make it, then you gotta make it happen. Each non-native person has to make the truth happen. If not, then you aren't gonna have no truth. All you got is lies. And your lies, the non-natives' lies is coming down around you every day. It's happening more and more. To the point of where very soon the curtain will actually come down. And the non-native people are gonna be in shock. You're gonna be in absolute chaos. Your world will be turned upside down when that curtain comes down. And the actions that's happening worldwide is causing it to come down. The lies can only be told for so long. Look at when we were in the school a couple of weeks ago, you yourself standing there watching these kids, seeing that they were aware of things that their parents accept. These children are aware that it's corruption, that it's wrong. What happens in the mind when those children turn into adults? Because once they turn into adults, they become compliant. What happens? The children are attacked. They're violated. So much so that they get locked into believing what the system tells them is law. And once you get trapped in law, in white man's law, you're in corruption forever. And anybody after that, you can't get out of it. Once you're a prosecutor, you can't be anything else. You're a prosecutor. Once you're a lawyer, and to them, they all hang out in the nicest restaurants. They have all the money in the world. But they don't have no one else. They only got each other. No one else hangs out with them. No one else communicates with them, talks with them. Nothing. They only got the corruption of each other. As you know, your average person, once you find out, let's say you're in a bar or something, and you find out that person's a lawyer. Huh, what do? You keep talking with them? Most people, no. Not unless the person needs a lawyer, and then they'll keep talking to them. But you find out that the person's a judge or a prosecutor, you keep talking to them? No way, right away. Everybody shies away from them. Anyways, this is the reality. Okay, if there's nothing else on that, we'll go on to Kelly.
No, that's good. Thank you. And this is something we're going to continue discussing in the Bear Clan, well, in the Life Givers Nation as a whole, to see. It seems that we have to bring court to court, basically. We have to bring all of them to court. So we'll see what we do. So,
well, this is what the Women's Nation was constituted for. Like was said, in the non-native world, you women, non-native women, white women, you've got a problem with your white men. If you can't see that by now, then yous are the problem. And if you are the problem, just know that the problem is being eradicated. Stuff to think about. Okay, Kelly.
Okay, well, I'm Kelly, daughter of Beverly, granddaughter of Betty, great-granddaughter of Jeannie. I just have to say, like, wow, again, to everything. It's I agree 100, more than 100% on every single point that you've made, because, and at some points I'd laugh, and it's because of the absolute truth of it, and how my white Celtic side, whatever European, that they just can't see that. They can't see the work that is ahead of us that we have to do. And so for me though, because of my journey and that court, all that stuff to me is the game, man. It's the spell in the game. So you need to be very smart and sharp, or if I say for myself, not sharp and smart enough, well, then I'm going to go in every case with absolute truth, and remembering that I have to stay connected to Mother Earth and the sacred cosmos, whatever it is, that I have to stay grounded in that, because the game, just a sec, sorry, Reg, I'm so sorry, just a moment. Yeah, because it's the only way I personally can find my way through it all. But I have a mischievous rebel enough side that with with people, I would be more than happy to walk into their offices, which are the courts or whatever, and apply the truth. So, but when I heard about this, because I really want to talk about Piper, when I heard of this thing going on somewhere in Canada, you know, you can't call a politician a name. Well, my first instinct is to, you know, go to court and fight for it. But at time and time again, I see that it's all a waste of time. And so I feel I have to pull myself back from that and go, Cal, you've only got a lifetime. You're going to end up being caught in that forever with them. Or but then with you, Stuart, I see, yes, there is that balance to it. If you can find the balance to be engaged, but to remember to stay as an observer within the engagement, this is for me. Otherwise, my mind's not healed enough yet to be able to deal with the game, but I'm getting strong enough to be able to, how do I apply what I was always trying to do to be able to be a part of, you know, like I realized, I may be going on here, but I realized the it's so big. It's everything, like you said, it's all over the planet. So I only have a lifetime. That's why I focused on I said, well, okay, then Creator, I'm going to focus on my neighborhood somehow to be able to be there for the children, apply truth, be that watcher. Like when someone does something wrong, you have to say something, no matter who it is, what it is. This is what I find for myself. And every time, if I have tried to stay within the place of heart and truth, the monsters, the good people, it's like the spell is getting broken for a moment with them, and then the monsters run away, or the monsters show my face, and then I ground myself and I just become Mother Earth's daughter, because that's the only way I've learned how to stand up to that since I was a little girl to even now. And then that brings us back to Piper, you know. I was saying before this started, for a child 15 years old, like for any child to have whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever like led to it, for a child to do that in its time and place, this whole world, like you said, Stuart, this is a corruption of everyone around that child, and the whites have to acknowledge it. And then, because I keep saying it, we have to acknowledge it ourselves first, and then everyone else who's got their own stuff to work on, you know, they can do that. But the 500 years of that we put on, you know, the 1500 years I guess it took to put us in the spell to be the greatest monsters in the world for 500, then we have to own it, because there's a freedom in that. And I can go on forever here, but I do have Piper's. I've been sort of busy with my own selfish getting stuff together to get myself a creative living and spiritual living. But I have Piper's address to, unless they move her, because they always do stuff like that, even within a week. I have all her address and information where she is and how to get a hold of her, write her a letter. I just wanted to phone them first and confirm everything that I've written down about how to do that.
We've been talking about this volcano all week, and this morning lava is flowing from the.
What?
Holy,
Sorry about that.
that's okay. That sounds really important too.
No, I'm, okay, go ahead. What I'm doing is I was, getting, another image here to share.
No, that's really, I think, that's good for me because, yeah, otherwise you've really said everything. So, I guess, when I was with you guys there was so much crossroads going on for me in my journey the more I've been home, the more I get to reflect. And, but, like, Stuart, everything you say is so true. This is before I came and found all you guys. And I've seen this enough, and I know it's because of what's happened to me in my journey as a child, being, subject to those monsters, and then getting lost by my own choice of getting lost, and then, or further lost, and then to which led me through everything that I've done to come to this place for, because I sit here and I go, well, Kel, Piper, she's just one of a million zillion kids, right? So, but the time and a place and everything's brought to where I think, I need to be there for her, because I have so much life experience and knowledge to be able to help children to find their way through a place like this, so that they right away have got a shield of love around them, so the monster can't get them any further. That's best I can say that. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, well, if you have her address and ways to communicate with her, then we need to share that. We need to share it right away, and to ask anybody who supports her to write her, to communicate with her, communicate to her, send her support, send her love. Let them know that there's humans in this world that don't accept what's happening to her. Yeah, so soon as you can share that with us, get that information to us. I don't know, do we already have that, or how long, when did you get that?
No, I got it, like, I guess last Monday, and then I was going to phone, or maybe it was the fall before Friday, and then my own personal life sort of took over my brain of having to get things done. And then and so that's the first thing I'm going to do Monday, because I didn't send it to you guys because I wanted to make sure I phone and make sure it's still there in that jail, in wherever it is, the Idaho or whatever it is. And that the things that I took off the internet from their website is in fact the way we can communicate with her. You can give her money they can set up where you can put money into their phone cards, so that they can have minutes, whatever, on their phones. Anyways, finding out, what, the ins and outs of being able to communicate with her.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, well, get that to us and I'll share that on my page, and we'll put a little explanation and tell people to
Yeah.
to do that. Okay, let's see, there's something here that I got to address. Somebody wrote me something here. Okay, somebody sent me a message. It's this Johnny Hawk. What's your perspective on Russ Daibo, who proudly says he's from Ganawagi? I've had many dealings. He ran from my questions. He sure fools the so-called grassroots. Okay, yeah, this Russell Daibo, he's from Ganawagi. He is a system person who's been working for the system. He's been in the Assembly of Foolish Natives. I don't know how long. I don't really know anything about him other than that he's from Ganawagi. He didn't grow up here. He didn't live here. He doesn't live here. I don't know where he lives. I just know him. I know that he's not a traditional person. He did not grow up within our ways. He did not grow up in the Longhouse. He so he's a system person. He's a believer in the Assembly of Foolish Natives. So you see him all the time talking about, oh, this is wrong or this is wrong in there, and he talks from within their laws as to why that's wrong and what should be done to improve it internally, but he's always talking about leaving the AFN there, using it. I think he actually said it's here, like we might as well use it, take it to our advantage, something like that. I'm not, I know I seen a statement of his in the last couple of weeks, but I don't pay attention to him. It's not he's not anybody that I pay any attention to. I don't put any value or any weight in the things that he says, because the things that he does say is always in support of the corruption of the British imposed genocidal elective system. So Johnny, as far as that goes, I don't know if you're watching or whatever, but I ain't gonna have the time like to message you back. So I'll just tell him that I'm addressing it right now, but yeah, for a lot of people around the country have been fooled by this Russell Dybel. Because whenever they have whatever they want to call it, like constitutional issues or something within them, within the Assembly of Foolish Natives, then for some reason, I don't know if they call upon him or if he's there or what, but somehow he factors in. And I don't think he's a lawyer. I've never heard of him being a lawyer, so I couldn't say why would this guy be even there, because he doesn't have the background of Ganyangahaga. He's got a background of just like anybody else, but yeah. So to people across the country that have been affected by him or influenced by him in the Assembly of Foolish Natives, well, that's, I don't know why anybody would be influenced by anyone within there anyways. So, yeah, okay, that's on that question about if I know Russ Dybel. I'm not going to say anything in favor of him. I got, on a personal level, I don't know, so. But on that level of business, he's part of the corruption that leads people in circles, chasing their tail around, keeping them in that corruption of the Assembly of Foolish Natives. So he's one of those yes people. Okay, all right, I just want to share something else here, one last image. Where is it? I think it's the wrong one. This one. Okay, there's that image. Or there's the story of the 3 MPs or whatever they were, that were kept out of the National Assembly. How do I move this?
Just drag it, pick it and grab it.
Let me get rid of that. Yeah, so there's Johnny's question on Johnny Hawk, and I just messaged him that I was addressing him right now. Okay, yeah, so there's the story. You know, it is just to identify, to show, well, this isn't something that we're making up. You know, people in other countries might think that it's crazy. How could so-called Canada demand of their politicians that they swear an allegiance to a king of England? Where is it? The people are stuck in the dark ages still. What more proof do you need when we say that the white man is still in the dark ages? White man has never gotten out of the dark ages. What is the dark ages? What does it represent? What do we associate with being in the dark ages? Well, war, disease, famine, pestilence, all the worst behaviors of humans towards others. Kings, queens, monarchs, that kind of stuff, that's Dark Ages. When did the world come out of it? Can anybody present any kind of proof when the white man came out of the dark age, out of his Dark Ages? Nobody's going to be able to come up with any kind of proof to substantiate that the white man is not still in the Dark Ages. They are still in the Dark Ages. This is one of the things that all of you so-called Canadians, even Kelly, you were just talking, you're on the other side of the country. You are affected by allowing any legislature in so-called Canada to refuse access by the elected people, the people who were elected, to refuse them access into the legislature unless they pledge allegiance to a so-called king. What's the purpose of having elections? What's the purpose of a democracy? If you got a king, doesn't that undo it? That undoes it all. Okay, is that on here or is it outside?
Yeah, me too.
We're hearing voices. Is somebody
I don't know if it was on Kelly's end. because
Oh my
she-
God, sorry, that is, I'm non-muted. Sorry, everyone. I just came back into the room. So
all
sorry.
right, okay, anyways, all this stuff here that we present, like the stuff that I can't understand, makes no sense to me. How can the non-native people just sit on their asses knowing something like this? Here, for just the people in so-called Canada, how could any so-called Canadian sit there and sit on their asses and not say anything, knowing that your politicians got to pledge an allegiance to a king of England? All so-called Canadians, yous are the epitome of stupidity. Worldwide, yous are the stupidest people on the planet. We can say this because yous like to fancy yourselves as being a democracy. Yous like to fancy yourselves as that yous have a well, you don't even say constitution, you say charter. Whereas in the States, people can say constitution, but here you can't say constitution. You got to say charter. What does that mean? What is a charter? Can anybody tell me what a charter is? Isn't that like a franchise? Look it up right now. Charter. Let's adjust this right now. Maybe share the meaning on
The first thing
screen.
that comes out is the Canadian Charter of Rights. A charter is the grant of authority or rights, stating that the grantor formally recognizes the prerogative of the recipient to exercise the right.
So, what does this tell you? You got a charter. Somebody granted you the right to have these rights. Who do you think it is? And if somebody grants you the right to have these rights, then that means that that person is the one that owns those rights. They are the one that can rescind those rights upon you anytime they want, because they're not your rights. You quite simply have a charter. This is like a franchise for a business. It's like if you got any chain of stores or something, and you open one in your front yard, you cannot do anything in the name of that company or whatever. You gotta accept everything coming down the pipe. All you got is a charter, a franchise. That's all that is. So what is Canada a charter of? What is the Charter of Rights a charter of? What's it granted to you from?
It is implicit that the grantor retains superiority, parentheses, or sovereignty, and that the recipient admits a limited, parentheses, or inferior status within the relationship. And it is within that sense that charters were historically granted, and it is that sense which is retained in modern usage of the term.
That's crazy. All right, take that off. Well, I don't know. I would have, if I was a so-called Canadian. Man, oh man. What more proof do you need that so-called Canadians are the stupidest people on the planet? I don't think you need any more proof than that. Anyways, am I calling you down if you consider yourself to be a Canadian? Are you offended that I'm calling you stupid? Well, if you're offended by it, then you have to do something to not actually fit that categorization. You actually have to not be stupid, to not be offended by when I say you're stupid. If I say you're stupid and you're not, would you be offended by it? No. Now, if you are just in denial that you're stupid, would you be offended by it? No. You wouldn't be offended because you're just denying. But what if you had evidence that substantiates that you are stupid? And you're still offended by it. What would that mean? That would mean the cognitive dissonance within you cancels out the truth of what you're able to see, and you still maintain being on the wrong path. This is absolutely everyone in so-called Canada. What in the hell is going on in the so-called Canadian mind, in that thinking? Is there any so-called Canadians who are thinking? Because just the fact of that, what charter says, and yous have had a charter of rights, what, since 1982? So for 40 years, 40 years, you thought you had some kind of freedoms. But for 40 years, anybody could have looked up what charter means. I wonder if I'm the first person who's ever come up with this idea of looking up the definition of charter. Must be. I must be the first one in all of everybody who's ever lived here in this land. Because if anybody else had this idea to look up what charter means, and then to extrapolate that to the meaning of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, so-called Canada, then you'll know that you don't have any rights or freedoms. You don't have. What is a charter? It's nothing. A charter is nothing. What is in the mind of everybody? Well, I don't know. I just got to a place of, I'll say, a deeper realization of the supreme stupidity of so-called Canadians. Supreme stupidity. I'll say even stupider than the so-called Americans. But yet the so-called Canadians look down on the Americans. These are all stupid people looking at each other and saying, you're stupider than I am. And they're all on the same boat that's sinking. They're all sitting on the same Titanic. Gee, I wonder who's stupider on that boat. Everybody's just as stupid. Anyways, maybe we got very personal here tonight. I hope it got very personal for anybody. For most of the people here that have been with us, I can't see this, who's taking this personal and being affected by this. I could see you as just acknowledging more facts, more truths. So somebody needs to do this now, not me. It means nothing if I do it. A non-native person, a white person, has to do this, has to compare, has to look at Canadian Charter of Rights, maybe an image, put it there as a book or something, whatever that looks like, however the Canada promotes it, so-called Canadian Charter of Rights, and then the interpretation of what a charter actually is. This would be so funny. This is gonna be a good exercise, a funny exercise to see the outcome. Some non-native person needs to do this. If I do not see this by tomorrow morning, I'm doing it. And it'll be too late for you to do it. And if you do
Something happened. Hello?
They just lost the connection, Elsa. They'll probably be back in a minute or so.
Yeah.
It's very windy in Quebec, so
Yeah, I know.
probably the same over there. So maybe they don't even have electricity. We'll wait a little bit and see what happens.
And also during the Zoom, we lost the sound often.
Oh yeah, it wasn't so bad here. I
No?
didn't lose the sound at this end. No, it was good. So probably that's an indication that it's struggling over there then.
Yeah.
There.
It's back.
Hello? Do you hear us? Oh, okay. So there you go.
Well, here, just hold it over there. Right there. Right there. Right there, where you were.
I know what's the problem.
Okay, so we're just gonna close.
I'm not seeing, that's why it's like.
Okay, can you see us? I don't know, I can't see. All right, on a gadi wahi ka joke was what on see us, Yardi. Gatita Zria, you just go noji and dodgets going to star, not that Roni. Years ago, away, always don't send hot, away Zan Hodu. I always got a hard time saying the closing. Okay, so Ayoki out again, ha, yet you saw the gun on there, all another headstone, I can't go read the how quick. Dam dawe out on Hetson and as it's lasted on a Gunungwe, dam dawe out on Hetson and a Grego on a Gordo Guyana Lasted go on Escana Donna Ori Huio, Gary will go to Shinsula, Donna goes at Stansida. Dogatain and a Hodi a Duxo, air the Sowit, air the Sowit, air the Sowit. Kenya has waits in Joanna. Okay, everybody, we'll see you tomorrow. If you're with us, we got the reconstitution at 1. We're supposed to have a couple of guests with us, very important about different calendars, aligning different calendars. So yeah, we'll see everybody soon. All right, Anna.
Good night, Ona.
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night, Elsa. Good night, everyone.